ambassador. Now I'd like to invite Ambassador Julian Gurrier, Ambassador of the EU. Please.
Thank you. Well, let me start to thank the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam and you, Dr. Sun, for having organized these interesting talks and this conference, which has now a global importance. The issues that we touch upon in this conference are at the right of global governance, and that's why the European Union is so engaged on these issues, because our shared security is at stake. You may wonder why there are so many Europeans those 2 days at this conference. The first reason is that our economic health is at stake. Around a third of our imports and a quarter of our exports sail through the South China Sea. Every day, 2,000 ships are sailing across the South China Sea to Europe or the other way around. So disrupting freedom of navigation affects global supply chains, trade routes, and access to key markets more broadly, including for us in the EU. It affects the energy supply, access to resources. It affects, in short, the global entire economy. Secondly, why we are so interested here, it's because stability, security, and the international law are at stake. This is about the health of our global governance system, which is being challenged nowadays across the globe. We live in an age where we cannot stand by while these mechanisms are discredited and undermined. We see the results in Ukraine, in Gaza, and if, for instance, we are to tackle the planetary crisis, pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss, we must have a functional and trusted global governance system. So for us, it's a question of principle, and it is crystal clear that international law with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, are at the heart of this system and must govern maritime areas. As a global community, we can and we must work together to ensure that international law and the international legal order gives us the support that we need, because might does not make right. And it's only by coming together with ASEAN countries, with EU countries and others, supported by strong and healthy regional and international structures, that we can take on those challenges. Now you mentioned, Excellency, the incidents that are taking place in the South China Sea lately. We see a growing number of incidents, dangerous actions like land reclamation, the use of maritime militias, provocative maneuvers in close proximity to other actors' assets. They do not only endanger maritime security, but they also disrupt vital commercial traffic. And that's why in our EU Indo-Pacific strategy and in our strategic compass for our security and defense policy, we have clearly identified those increased geopolitical challenges and competition intensifying in the Indo-Pacific as a source of instability and a risk for the EU's security as such. Increasing tensions here can have a direct impact on our prosperity, on our security, and the military deployments that we see harm the open maritime security environment in the South China Sea. So that's why we in the EU promote an open and rules-based regional security architecture, and we are working to promote capacity building, to work together on coordinate EU member states' naval presence in the Indo-Pacific. You will have noted that ships from member states of the EU, notably Germany, France, Italy and the Netherlands, have sailed more regularly lately in the region. Just next week in Da Nang, we expect a French frigate to call port. And as tensions escalate, we want to ensure that by our presence and by the support to UNCLOS, we can have de-escalation of tensions and we can work together to reach mutually acceptable resolutions to these disputes in a peaceful manner. I think Vietnam has been showing the way with the agreement with Indonesia recently on the limits of your respective EEZs. We hope that this can be ratified soon and that this will also inspire similar cooperation between ASEAN claimant countries in the region. We are also very encouraged to see the increased cooperation between Vietnam and the Philippines, and we think that in this area we can also contribute with the EU project on critical maritime routes in the Indo-Pacific, CRIMARIO, and such instruments like our Maritime Domain Awareness Platform, EURIS, which can be used by many partners in the region, including ASEAN members, like it is used already by the Philippines. EURIS can help Vietnam also to improve interagency coordination and to better fight against illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, detect dark targets, deter drug trafficking, prevent piracy and armed robberies, and many other challenges at sea. We are also encouraging ASEAN to work towards a substantive and effective code of conduct. We are committed to working with ASEAN as an organization in the interest of peace and security in Southeast Asia and support, as you know, ASEAN centralities principle. For us, ASEAN has been successful also because it has been the source of international norms and it has respected international norms in its dispute resolution mechanisms. The most recent example was the border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia, where we're happy to see that the recent agreement is an important milestone for peace, as underlined by Vice President Kallas of the EU, and that we, the EU, stand ready to support its implementation. We are also ready to support Coast Guard's capabilities strengthening in ASEAN countries and deepening our engagements with ASEAN through maritime dialogues with the ASEAN as an organization and with individual member states. So, in brief, our message is that the EU and ASEAN and their member states are supporting international law. We are fully behind the multilateral system. We share in this part of our DNA, and we want to work together to stand for peace, prosperity, overcome historical rivalries through cooperation and dialogue. Let me say perhaps a last word on how we can also cooperate on critical maritime infrastructure. Undersea cables represent the backbone of global communication. They carry 95% of international data. They are strategic infrastructure. We see how vulnerable they are in the South China Sea, but also closer to home in the Baltic Sea, which is another reason why it's so important for us to work together. These illegal activities are often deliberately designed to obstruct or disguise of obstructing attribution and accountability. So we are developing a toolbox to be better able to qualify, prove, coordinate attribution of such activities and impose sanctions, and we're happy to share our experience with you in this region. Other areas of cooperation include substandard vessels, ILO Maritime Labour Convention, and UNCLOS forbid and require every state to effectively exercise their jurisdiction and fight against shadow fleets. You know how active we have been lately on this subject, and we are cooperating with Vietnam and other countries in the region. And finally, the blue economy, to finish on a positive note, can be a source of economic growth for the region as a whole. We are ready to work with you on sustainable fisheries, sustainable blue economy, and exploitation of resources of the sea, regulating climate, sustaining biodiversity, supporting livelihoods, and addressing plastic pollution in the region. This is something that, beyond the mutual interest it represents, can also be a way of diffusing tensions and learning to work together with all border countries and interested parties on this sea in a peaceful and coordinated manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for highlighting to us again how interconnected the European Union is to ASEAN and to Southeast Asia. And I hope that if we go by the seashore, you can see some of those 2,000 ships that pass by the South China Sea per day as well. So economic security, international law, critical infrastructure, just to name a few. And the tools for connections and for extending cooperation is strategic compass, Primario, IRIS, just to name a few. Thank you very much. I'd like to now turn to Ambassador of Canada, and please let us know how interconnected Southeast Asia or the Indo-Pacific to North America and to your country in particular.
Thank you very much. Thank you, President Son. And it's an honor to participate in the 17th edition of the South China Sea International Conference, and of course to participate on this panel with colleagues titled Peace Through Shared Responsibility. I'd also like to thank and congratulate the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam for organizing this important forum that enhances constructive dialogue and cooperation and contributes to strengthening the consensus that international law is the only way to address shared issues of concern in the South China Sea. We, of course, are facing significant geopolitical shifts and growing security challenges that demand our collective responsibility, attention, and action. And it's also clear that the world's oceans and seas are central to our shared prosperity and security. As has been mentioned, some 1/3 of global shipping passes through the South China Sea. 10% of global fish catch takes place in the South China Sea, which is an anchor for food security and the livelihoods of millions of people. And as was discussed yesterday, nearly all internet traffic travels through undersea cables, including, of course, through the South China Sea. So we can see the global strategic importance of the South China Sea, hence Canada's interest as well. But of course, as has also been discussed yesterday and today, the risks remain. The South China Sea remains a flashpoint with repercussions beyond this region, in fact, global repercussions. Canada therefore consistently condemns actions that jeopardize peace, stability, and prosperity in the South China Sea. We oppose militarization of disputed features, and we oppose the use of naval, coast guard, maritime militia to intimidate and threaten states. In this complex security environment, countries must collaborate to uphold international rules, those international rules that ensure safe, open, and peaceful maritime domain. It's also essential that states commit to full and effective implementation of international law, and in particular, UNCLOS. In doing so, this provides us all with a framework to peacefully resolve disputes and maintain regional security. So these are the ideals that we strive for and are embedded in Canada's efforts to deepen trade and security partnerships in the Indo-Pacific region and with ASEAN in particular. Canada has made significant strides in advancing our regional bilateral partnerships. On the economic side, in 2023, we concluded a new strategic partnership with ASEAN as a whole. This year, in 2025, we concluded a free trade agreement with Indonesia, a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Indonesia. We, of course, are free trade partners with Vietnam in the comprehensive and progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership. And we're negotiating a free trade agreement with the Philippines. On the security side, Canada has strengthened its defense presence in this region through Royal Canadian Navy deployments that give us a near permanent naval presence in the region. I'd also like to point out on the security side that Canada enjoys two defense cooperation arrangements with Vietnam, and we conduct regional high-level defense policy dialogues with Vietnam. We also have similar arrangements with the Philippines. Partnering with the regional, another area I'd like to highlight for our engagement to increase security and stability in the region is that Canada partners with a couple of regional states here using our dark vessel detection program, which utilizes space-based technology to improve maritime domain awareness in the South China Sea. And of course, we continue to use diplomatic platforms that are available to us. This year, Canada hosted the G7. As the G7 in the G7 presidency, we were able to conclude a joint declaration on maritime security and prosperity with a certain focus on the South China Sea. We also, of course, participate actively in the ASEAN Regional Forum and our observership in the ASEAN Defense Ministers meetings, where, together with our ASEAN partners, we foster dialogue on the importance of international law and UNCLOS in particular. We too, like the European Union, support ASEAN efforts to reach an effective South China Sea code of conduct with China. And at the United Nations, we bring these issues to the highest level. I would point out this September on the margins of the UN General Assembly that we participated with other foreign ministers in a dialogue on maritime cooperation for a secure and stable Indo-Pacific with, again, a certain focus on the South China Sea. So security in the South China Sea is a matter of global importance. Canada will continue to work with partners to uphold international law, most notably UNCLOS, and support the peaceful resolution of disputes. For the sake of our common security and prosperity, countries must work together to protect the high seas and the rules that govern them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Again, very broad-based interest to engage the region, and throughout the years, Canada as a dialogue partner of ASEAN as a region, and also extensive network of bilateral relationship with Southeast Asian countries, have established Canada as a resident partner of ASEAN in the Indo-Pacific. So thank you very much. Now let me turn to Ambassador Margaret Berth, Ambassador of Germany to Vietnam. Please highlight for us the importance of the Indo-Pacific and particularly Southeast Asia and South China Sea to Germany. Please, Excellency.
Can you hear me all right? First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Sun and everyone involved at the DAV in preparing this excellent conference. The last day was really inspiring, and it's a great honor for me to be on this, for the first time, to be on this ambassadors panel, and I hope you're not going to be disappointed. The German Foreign Minister, Johann Wadepohl, has announced 3 guiding principles for German foreign policy: security, freedom, and prosperity. So I do think most of us can subscribe to these 3 principles. This means that Germany, for us, it means that Germany will invest in the capability to defend ourselves. We will invest in the multilateral world order, and we will invest in our competitiveness. I come back to Minister Wadepohl. He would actually have traveled to Beijing last weekend, but called the trip off because he would have met only with his direct counterpart Wang Yi and no one else. And rather than calling it a diplomatic flu, he said that he would not travel at this time, and some reasons were given. It transpired that apparently there had been some conditions for a fuller program, and that would have been apparently also for the foreign minister to recant on a couple of things he'd said on his trip to Japan and in Indonesia concerning the South China Sea and Taiwan, and he didn't want to do that. And it has all become very public in Germany, and there is a debate on that I think I do welcome, and many others at the Foreign Ministry also are welcoming that debate. What he said was that China's, I'm quoting, China's growing military assertiveness in the South China Sea not only threatens Asia's security, but also undermines the international rules-based order as a whole. And with essential trade routes running right through this area, it also constitutes an economic risk. The same goes for the Taiwan Strait. Any escalation would have serious consequences for global security and prosperity, and directly affect German and European interests too. So I couldn't have found any better formulation for the same content. So what matters in this region matters to us very, very much. Julien Guerrier has spoken about that with facts and figures, so I won't repeat that. But just as Vietnam and many countries in these regions are concerned about the erosion of international rules and norms in and around the South China Sea, so are we regarding violations of international law in Europe. We're facing an ever more aggressive Russia that is not only waging an illegal war of aggression in Ukraine since more than 3 years, it has also recently violated the airspace of EU countries. Poland, Estonia, for example. And let me underline, the security of Poland, Estonia, other member states of NATO and the EU, this is also our security, and we stand by the side of our Central European neighbors, as we have seen with the deployment of German warplanes. The quick reaction of NATO to these airspace violations has shown that we act decisively against any threats to NATO's territory. And secondly, as we are a major trading nation and we are manufacturers, also very similar to Vietnam, we have been hit very hard by Chinese export restrictions of rare earths that perhaps are now, the problem has now been solved for a year, hopefully. And we're also concerned about restrictions to free trade, and will continue to advocate for free trade with all our partners. And we've heard that also yesterday that we're still grappling with a new world. I wouldn't say it's a new world order because it's not quite clear. But Germany, also within the European Union, is very mindful that we are nothing but a middle power. So for us, these rules and regulations, international rules and regulations, they really do matter, and we will stand up against the big ones, whether they are on the other side of the Atlantic or they are just a Pacific power that let others know that they are the only rule setters. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Ambassador, for highlighting to us how connected the South China Sea security is to that of Germany and to that of the European Union. Not only because of the economic risk that it's going to pose should there be an incident or instability in the South China Sea, but also the kind of eroding rules and norms that it eats into international structure that we so much depend upon. But also you highlighted another important fact that in terms of trade, in terms of supply chains, the global economy is so intertwined, interdependent. And if a bit of that supply chain is certainly stopped somewhere, that is going to have a consequential impact to the rest of us. Thank you very much. And last but not least, another resident middle power in the region, Japan. Can you highlight to us, well, maybe needless to say, how important the South China Sea and how connected the South China Sea to the East China Sea, but nevertheless, we'd like to hear from you, Excellency.
Thank you, Mr. Son. Sorry, me again. So, good morning. As you may know, the new Prime Minister was elected in Japan. The first female Prime Minister, Takaichi Sanae Takaichi. So soon after she was elected as Prime Minister Takaichi made a diplomatic debut, attended a series of diplomatic events last week, starting from her attendance to ASEAN leaders meeting hosted by Malaysian government. We have our colleague Dato there. And then she attended the APEC meeting in Korea, and in between, Prime Minister Takaichi had to entertain President Trump in Tokyo. So let me explain to you what Madam Takaichi wanted to achieve through the series of diplomatic events she had to deal with soon after she was elected. So when she attended the ASEAN-related meeting, one of the things she wanted to achieve was to promote again this policy vision of Japan of peace, stability, and prosperity in the region, namely free, open Indo-Pacific. This policy vision has been advocated by Japanese leaders since 2016, and the cardinal principle is the rule of law, this international order which is open and free. So I think this is a really important policy vision, and Prime Minister maintained that this will continue to be the pillar of Japanese diplomacy in pursuing peace, prosperity, security in Indo-Pacific region. And in the ASEAN meeting, she stressed the importance of seeing the synergy, cooperation with this AOIP, ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific. So actually Japanese leaders and ASEAN leaders came up with a joint statement to promote further cooperation between FOIP and AOIP. And in the meeting with ASEAN leaders, Japan-ASEAN leaders meeting, in the context of the theme that we are discussing yesterday and today, Takaichi stressed the importance that we should not tolerate any attempt to change the status quo unilaterally by force or coercion, regardless of the location. And she took the example of East China Sea, South China Sea, as well as the Taiwan Straits. And for East China Sea, she said that there has been the activities which infringe Japanese sovereignty and provocative military activities going on and being strengthened. And South China Sea, she shared very deep concern that coercive activities are maintained and even militarization are being strengthened. And she also said that Japan supports continuously that rule of law in the ocean, and those claims or oceanic activities which are not based on UNCLOS should not be accepted. And she stressed the importance of resolving a dispute through international, on the basis of international law. And also, when she met with Xi Jinping, President of China, in Seoul during the APEC meeting, she raised those issues. She said that she wanted to convey her concern on those escalation activities by China in East China Sea surrounding the water of Senkaku Island, including maritime scientific research, as well as the intensification of activities of Chinese Navy. And also Takaichi expressed her concern regarding the situation in South China Sea in person to President of China, Xi Jinping. So coming back to FOIP, when she met with Donald Trump, they agreed to promote further towards the realization of FOIP. And also when she met with Prime Minister Carney of Canada, she did the same thing. Before concluding, I want to stress that the peace is indivisible. So that is why even Prime Minister talked about the situation in Ukraine. During the meeting with ASEAN countries, So Japanese Prime Minister continues to say that today's Ukraine maybe tomorrow's East Asia. So important thing is that we all should be united to abide by this international law as well as to promote rule-based international order. I think I should stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Well, Prime Minister Takaichi, in her first week, she attended one of the most important multilateral settings in the region. She met with President Xi Jinping, and she hosted President Trump's coming to visit Japan. All that within a week of her inception. That's amazing. It's an amazing debate. Well, so good luck with the new Prime Minister of Japan. The region and the world needs more Japan, and I hope that Prime Minister Takaichi will deliver. Thank you very much. So we've heard the initial remarks of all the ambassadors. I think there's a common theme that connects them all, that they all see the very important of the Indo-Pacific, the South China Sea. They are all connected with this region in many ways. Many of them are connected comprehensively to the region, and they all share a common interest of preserving the rules, preserving an open architecture in the region, one that is based on international law. And so I think there's a lot of commonalities and unity in the remarks, initial remarks. So let me start with the first question. Yesterday we talked about uncertainties, and the talks, if you recall, focused a lot on the major powers. There are even a lot of debates around the G2, and if the G2 is a new phenomenon that we should talk about. So naturally, I guess, you want it or not, if you like it or not, the uncertainties that is around today is driven by and large by the ways that major powers interact with one another, the ways that major powers pursue their national interests, and hence the impact to us all. You, as the representations of the middle powers in the room, can we count on the middle powers to give us hope on unity and reducing and managing the uncertainties? And how? Okay, Ambassador Julian.
Thank you. You're talking about middle powers, but as you heard, there's a lot of unity, shared values and principles and interests that you underlined, and added together, I'm not sure this is such a middle power. Let me take an example of what we could do. We've heard about free trade agreements being negotiated between the countries of this region and between ourselves. If you take the EU plus the CPTPP, that represents a very, very large share, I wouldn't say middle power, of global trade. And you see today increased cooperation and willingness to cooperate more in the future between the EU and the CPTPP. So the message is, we can work together. Together we are strong, stronger than the strongest. We can salvage the world order, and we have instruments to do that, trade being one example.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, please, Ambassador of Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Song. Since Julian talked about the importance of CPTPP, I would like to echo what he said. So Vietnam will be in the chair presidency of CPTPP next year. So I think that this will present us a wonderful opportunity of collaboration to promote trade. This is a plurilateral framework of free trade, and as you will know that Vietnam played a very, very important role when we came up with this new agreement some years back. So hopefully through the general review of CPTPP agreement, we'll be able to enhance the level of cooperation, collaboration, involve those parties as well as those aspirants to become a new member of CPTPP. So, and also this is a small Japan's effort to bring about unity and decrease uncertainty. So as our own effort, we are providing support to those countries in the region so that they can enhance their defense capabilities. Through the new scheme called OSA, Official Security Assistance. This is grant aid to a military section of the recipient countries. So on top of ODA, Japan started this new framework of cooperation, and already Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Fiji, those countries are receiving this assistance. And I hope that we'll be able to provide assistance to Vietnam so that Vietnam's capability for maritime security will be enhanced. This is another effort to lessen uncertainty in the region, also to promote our policy vision of free, open Indo-Pacific. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Ambassador Ving and then Ambassador of Canada.
Thank you very much. I just want to highlight what we have been observing, the role of ASEAN as a smaller and medium states. ASEAN in the region here has been a connecting actor for all the efforts that are going throughout the region. Number one, on trade, on issues like trade, security, and cooperation on the challenges, non-traditional security issues. Number two is that ASEAN can be in the focal point of connecting the dialogue partners, including countries in the region, but also including countries outside the region, on how we can work together on common issues and common prosperity and peace here in the region. But at the same time, ASEAN can be in collaboration not only with other partners, but also with the two big major powers like China and the US. So I think there's a role for ASEAN, and that has been recognized by all other partners. Now, in the context of great power rivalry, what ASEAN has been confirming is that it will not be trapped into choosing sides. That ASEAN throughout the years, recent years, have been doing as such, and it can be able to do. And I think ASEAN will continue to have agencies in navigating the rivalry and competition between the major powers, in steering the common cooperation on issues of shared interests of all countries in the region and outside the region. Now, come back to the concept of G2. Whether you will recognize it or not, but this is very much a concept that we need to discuss more. Because if you talk about G2, then those two countries will have a role to set the rules and set the platforms for cooperation in the region. I still prefer a way that we will be basing ourselves on international law. Bigger countries will have bigger responsibilities. But we have to go beyond the binary choice, not because we have other countries, including big and small, and countries like ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. So we also need to strengthen regional groupings and use them as a bridge to engage the major powers. Is that what you are advising us to do? Ambassador Nico and then Ambassador Margaret.
Thank you very much. I would like to double down on the comments that have just been made about the opportunity for middle powers to partner with ASEAN in particular to advance our shared interests in peace, stability, and support for the rule of law. The opportunities that are coming up, of course, with the Philippines hosting ASEAN in 2026, that's a great opportunity through the ASEAN Regional Forum to address for middle powers outside of the region to partner with ASEAN on regional security issues, the South China Sea focus in particular, and to support, as many of us had mentioned earlier, ASEAN's effort to conclude South China Sea Code of Conduct with China that would be substantive and effective. Other opportunities that are on the horizon, of course, in the economic domain, as Julien has rightfully noted, Vietnam will be hosting, will be the president, the chair of the CPTPP beginning in January 2026. So that again is an opportunity to push those international trade rules and perhaps find some of those bridges to the European Union, perhaps, as Julien has suggested. And then going out further, Vietnam has another opportunity to bring middle powers together in support of rules-based order, rules-based trade, and that would be the hosting of APEC in 2027 in Vietnam as well. So these are opportunities on the horizon for middle powers to unite in this joint effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Margaret.
Well, the middle power again. Germany is not shy about our legal position. We have made it public in various international fora, especially in the E3 format in 2025, and we do think that's really important. Another instrument is deployments of the German Navy, but other than Japan, Canada, Vietnam, of course, and France, we are not a Pacific power, so our ships have to travel really far to get to the South China Sea. This is the reason why they're not here every 6 months or so, but this is quite clearly the plan also for the future deployments in the South China Sea and passages through the Taiwan Straits. And the third instrument is enhancing defense capabilities with partners in the region, training, cooperation. We would actually like to do much more with Vietnam, and are really striving for that. It's not that easy, so perhaps there will be more possibilities for cooperation in the future. And then, of course, we're working with ASEAN on UNCLOS. There are a couple of projects that are being supported by Germany. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So we've heard a few highlights on how to enhance unity among the middle powers. One that is trade. The second thing is building capacity to, especially to enforce the security environment and increase the capability to enforce the rules and norms. Third is to work on multilateralism and engage in mutually supporting existing multilateral architecture. And then fourth is to engage the major powers, the so-called elephants in the room, in order to clarify the context and their interest and how they would like to pursue the interest. What about governance? What about the international law itself? What do you think can be done in order to continue to enforce international law, continue to encourage the kind of universal interpretation and application of international law in the way that we used to, and also in the way that we are not used to, because there are new emerging issues like AI. Then what do you think about what can be done with regard to the international rules-based architecture? Anyone would like to? That's why we needed you. You just stick to it. I think the people are in the back.
So out of blue, Mr. Song asked a very, very difficult question. So we are taken aback. But firstly, I really would like to commend the efforts done by Vietnamese government. Only 1 week ago, the Vietnamese government organized the signing ceremony of a new multilateral convention, the Cyber Crime Treaty, Hanoi Convention. More than 100 countries gather in Hanoi, 72 countries sign. Unfortunately, Japan has yet to sign this agreement, but this is a really wonderful concerted effort of international community. to abide by and promote the framework of multilateralism. So when you talk about uncertainties surrounding multilateralism, so that is coming not necessarily from the rivalry of bigger powers, but the lack of, say, respect to international law. So lack of, say, sort of a stance taking vis-a-vis rule-based international order. So that is why this free trade area is very, very important. How we can promote the free trade, that is to bolster multilateralism and to increase the awareness of the importance of abiding by international law. And also in the context of this conference, of course, we should talk about UNCLOS, how UNCLOS should be respected. So again, concerted effort is also very important among those stakeholders. Also, as the Filipino friend mentioned yesterday very passionately, transparency efforts should be encouraged among those stakeholders. I think those concerted effort, group effort, should continue to be done. So I think that is how I see about what we could do to promote the importance of international law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And Ambassador Nico, please.
Thank you. I guess another aspect of this would be the importance of states to continually call out violations of international law rather than remaining silent. And that can be done in multilateral settings, through regional organizations, and of course in our bilateral diplomatic engagements. When there are violations of international law, for example, we've been speaking here in this conference quite a bit about coercive tactics used in the South China Sea to intimidate or threaten other states. That needs to be called out. That cannot be ignored. That has to be done in multilateral settings, in regional settings, and in our bilateral interactions, diplomatic interactions with violators of international law. So I would emphasize that importance, and I think it aligns in part with the discussion yesterday about assertive transparency, where there are actors, non-state actors, who are providing information about what's going on in the South China Sea. That kind of transparency is important to be able to uphold international law and international rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Julian, and then Ambassador Lee.
Thank you. Indeed, the UN Convention Against Cybercrime is a good example to show that there is still hope in the multilateral rules making. But when multilateral rules making doesn't work, we see in trade that plurilateral rules making can take its place and at least build up a critical mass of countries that join, for instance, an alternative dispute settlement mechanism like the MIA, and we very much welcome that Vietnam has joined this mechanism. When I was talking about cooperation between the EU and the CPTPP, it's in particular for future rulemaking, because that would, as such, represent a critical mass of countries developing rules together. And as you were mentioning artificial intelligence, well, we took the initiative in the EU to regulate on ethical artificial intelligence, and we're happy to see that Vietnam is taking the lead in this region with the development of its own legislation that was largely inspired by EU rules, and that will be adopted by the National Assembly in the current plenary session, which is very encouraging, and that's by setting those good examples that we can have more people joining and sharing the same values and principles. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Ambassador Lee?
I just want to say that I'm in agreement with the comments made by all the ambassadors here, Ambassador of Japan, Canada, and EU. There are a lot of areas we cannot just sit still, and we have to act. And one of the ways that we have to act is through promoting international cooperation and to multilateralism at both regional and global level. So I think that Vietnam will be the chair of APEC in 2027, together with Singapore, 2027 chairman of ASEAN. So trade facilitation and free trade will be very much important topics here. Another example, Vietnam is also planning to host the ASEAN Future Forum next year. And that will be very much an initiative to further promote regional cooperation and multilateralism in order to enhance international and regional cooperation, even though it is within the context of ASEAN. So I agree with all that we can still take initiatives to promote multilateralism and cooperation. Thank you.
And plurilateralism as well, right? Okay, Ambassador Griffith.
I shall be very brief. Only 3 points. Transparency is not aggressive but important. Attributing acts of aggression is important. My own government has not always been so keen and quick in attributing acts of aggression. I'm very happy to say that this has really changed. And also, we need to transcend our own immediate concerns in our own neighborhood. So the rules-based order is not just something we are interested in if violations take place close to our shores, but we should call them out wherever they happen. That's not easy politically, but it really should be done whenever possible.
Thank you very much. Transparency, attributions, and be able to speak out against violations of the rules-based international order, regardless of where it happens, right? Thank you very much. And if I may, I'd like to suggest one more important measure, and that is you continue to support the South China Sea Conference series and come to this conference. Thank you very much. Now let us open up for the Q&A, and I see a lot of hands, so I'll go from left to right. So Jay first, and then someone down there, yes, the gentleman, and then the lady Ngọc Hân. Jay, please. I think you have a mic on your table, so just press and use the mic.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen, and also I would like to express my gratitude to the Excellencies who supported the transparency efforts of the Philippine government. Over the past 2 years, since we launched the Transparency Initiative with the Philippine government with regard to the South China Sea, we realized that the reputational damage is not something that would compel the People's Republic of China to adhere to the international law. My question is to His Excellency from Canada, Germany, and Japan, being members of G7 countries. How can we come up with collective, tangible actions that would really hold China accountable, or for them to recognize and be compelled to adhere to the international law? Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. I'll collect a few more questions and then I'll return to our ambassadors. Please. Can you briefly introduce yourself? Yes.
Jan Asmussen, German Center of Excellence at Thammasat University in Bangkok. Ambassador Gary pointed out how strong the group is that you are representing, that it's not a middle power. Now, my question is, each of you expressed your wish to enhance security in the region. But the question is, how coordinated are actually your efforts? As an example, if we look at enhancing military capabilities, the problem is that we are not acting united, we are acting competitive. And the same question back to the ASEAN example. How united is ASEAN actually when it comes to security architecture in the region? Because each nation has a very different approach. So I would like to sound you out at how we can get closer to cooperation and coordination, as you already hinted at. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the question of this whole conference, unity. Thanks. Hun, please. Can you pass on the mic to your neighbor? Just right. Okay, thank you. Just speak to it. It's going to speak up. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Han Lei from the DAV. I would like to ask a question to His Excellency Ambassador Julien Guerrier. Two questions, please. My first question is that we recognize EU's engagement effort to strengthen peace in our region. But I would like to know what challenges does the EU have in this effort? Maybe there must be more than what I can imagine, but we cannot ignore that. We cannot ignore EU's challenges related to its internal affairs, like budgetary constraints, some other security challenges, internal solidarity, etc. So, how can EU ensure this engagement lasting and substantial instead of being a kind of symbol? Thank you. It's my second question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Rex May, and then anyone here? Okay, I see a lot of hands from my right hand side. So Rex May, and then I'll move on. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sun. I have two questions. First one to Ambassador Wing. In your view, what the prospects of US-China relation, in particular, how persistent they are in trying to contest the current and the future world order we live in. Yesterday's discussion centered on the theme that for ASEAN particularly, US-China confronting each other too much is bad, but closing up too much also good. So can they meet halfway and try to promote the theme of this panel, peace, share responsibility, but not solely on strength, So I would like to hear your view on that. My second question is referred to Ambassador Nayaki. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your interesting insight on the new Prime Minister priority, very clear. But I would like to ask a few questions. Under her leadership, what Japan potential top priority in engaging ASEAN, particularly security, cooperation, and economic security? Do we expect to see any major policy changes of Japan toward ASEAN under Prime Minister Takaichi? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think I'm going to choose sides. So for the first round of questions, I'm going to choose the left-hand side of the hall, and then on the second round, I'll go to this hall. So please wait, be patient. I'll come to you. Now, let me return to the ambassadors. And if you found the questions on the screen from the online audience, you may try to answer any of them as well if you are interested in those questions. Please.
Yes, on the question regarding the G7 and how the G7 might usefully help address course of activity in the South China Sea. Well, as I mentioned earlier, that discussion did take place this year amongst G7 partners and with other like-mindeds who were invited to those sessions for discussions on maritime security and prosperity. I think the important point, though, however, coming out of those meetings is that the G7, with, again, like-minded partners, act in unison, act with unity, act collectively. One, to make the positions of G7 countries absolutely clear to aggressors or violators of international law. So there's no uncertainty about the position that those countries take on these issues. That can perhaps contribute to a deterrence in some cases. But I guess more materially would be for G7 countries to coordinate and provide material support to the victims of coercion to help strengthen their resilience in the face of such coercive tactics.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Julian, would you like to take up the questions of how to engage, to continue the new engagements with region, given that it has a lot of business to do at home?
Yes, there were several questions. One about the coordination between us. Indeed, we are all present here in the South China Sea. You heard our common interest. I wouldn't say we are here in competition, not at all. In terms of coordination within the EU, we are trying to ensure coordinated maritime presence and have joint programs. But there is certainly more scope to develop cooperation with other partners here on the panel. Now, yes, it is true that we may be far away, the EU, and have military means that are now very much focused on building up our capacity to resist to challenges closer to home with a very aggressive Russia at our borders. Nevertheless, as I underlined, and as the question here on the screen underlines, everything is linked, and our security depends on the security of this region as well. The question talks about one theater concept. We see the presence of North Korean troops in Ukraine. We see that without the support of Asian powers, the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine would have stopped long ago. So certainly we are investing more and more. You see more and more naval presence here, and there are a lot of things that we can do beyond capacity building, but also cooperating and exchanging experience on maritime security, security of strategic assets, fight against terrorism in the region. And I believe that this is something that through programs like ASIWA, Enhancing Security with Asia, which contributes to this conference, Crimerio on critical maritime routes that I mentioned earlier, and more generally bilateral twinning projects, we can increasingly contribute to the security of the region and vice versa.
Thank you. Ambassador of Japan, would you like to elaborate on what you think the policy changes will be under the new Prime Minister's ship? Just speak to the mic, it will turn on by itself. No?
Yeah, it's coming. Thank you for asking question. I'm so pleased that audience having some high expectation on this new government of Japan. It may be a bit unusual these days. But so far we have not seen much of the sign of a clear change of policy. So in terms of foreign policy, very much the continuation of the previous Prime Minister's government under LDP. So free open Indo-Pacific is a good example of the continuation of policy. But I think the important phenomena back in Japan is approval rate for Takaichi is so high, 70%, 80% domestic opinion is supporting the administration. So highest in 25 years. When Koizumi Junichiro became Prime Minister, approval rate was that high, 70%, 80%. So this means that there will be a room for maneuverability. So Shimei would like to see more of what is taking place outside Japan. Of course, it's very important to deal with the economic situation domestically, but at the same time, with the backing of the Japanese people, I think she may be tempted to exert more leadership on the affairs of the world. So of course, cornerstone of Japanese security in the Pacific, Japan-US alliance, and this was reconfirmed when Takaichi hosted Mr. Trump there. And also, inevitably, economic security is the area any of those leaders in the region or in the world need to focus on. So there was agreement between Madam Takaichi and Mr. Trump on critical mineral rare earth arrangement. So supply chain resilience is also an issue. So those issues which are required for any leader, in particular Japanese leader, to do, I'm sure that she can make efforts so that some sort of tangible efforts can be done. And a good sign was that she started diplomatic engagement with ASEAN countries. So unity with ASEAN was very much high on the agenda for Prime Minister Takaichi. I'm sure she will continue to do so, and hopefully she will be able to come to this part of the region, if not this year, early part of next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Naoki. Ambassador Wing, please.
Hello. I will touch upon two questions, one related to US-China and implications for the region. Second one is about coordination among middle powers. So for different countries, we will see differently on how US and China relationships are taking place right now. But what I recommend is that they are in competition, in fierce competition. And they will have more competition than cooperation, but I call it this stage of their relationship as managed rivalry and competition. It is managed. No one from China or no one from the US will wish to have this relationship coming to a collision or conflict. So they try to compete to be more prominent, but at the same time they try to manage it. That's why. The second point is that the fluctuations and instability in the relationship of these two biggest countries and economies certainly will impact on all regions of the world. And we have seen for example, in Southeast Asia, our supply chains are very much dependent on China and on the US. So when the tariffs come and when the competition and rivalry between the two are coming, so we, the smaller countries in Southeast Asia, are facing the disruption of trade and economic flows. So that's very much important that on how we can influence back and try to keep some sort of level of stability. Tariffs should not be good, especially reciprocal tariffs should not be good, but we try to manage it a level that we can survive. We can survive, and at the same time, we have the agencies to build further and to strengthen further. For example, internal ASEAN integration, like strengthening or upgrading the ASEAN framework agreement on trade in goods, for example. We are attempting the digital economy through the framework, DAV, for example, and we're also upgrading ASEAN-China FTA 3.0 now. But I still think that we need both US and China, and in a way that we are living in a world of headwinds and difficulties, but we should try to manage. One of the facts that we cannot avoid is that they are competing, and so we will face the headwinds, but at the same time we can still manage to mitigate the headwinds and try to be in a way that we can survive. That's the way I think it is. Now, on the question of coordination among middle powers, very often we have two different ways of coordinating. One is through the mechanism of like-minded countries on issues like this or like that. And the other one is that we have common regional frameworks like ASEAN or EU to coordinate. And we have been coordinating, but the question here is not about coordination, about we cannot be united. I might guess that one. So I will argue like this. Even with less coordination, it is still better than no coordination. That's one thing. But here in the region of Southeast Asia, we need to understand the nuances of our coordination and relationship vis-a-vis the major powers. One general picture is that no one in this region of Southeast Asia will be 100% with China against the US, and no one will be 100% with the US against China. We are trying to manage at different level in a way that we can be in a position to have relations and cooperation with both the US and China. That's very critical for us here. So sometimes we can agree, sometimes we cannot agree, but the general feeling of the house in ASEAN is something like that. Point number two is that we will not trap ourselves into the binary choice. That is, we need both US and China, but at the same time we are exploring opportunities to enhance our relations with other countries, including the EU, Canada, Japan, Germany, and others. Here in the region we have Japan, Korea, Australia, India, and many of us trying to do it that way. Many of us do it that way. I've been doing in ASEAN for quite a time in the past, and sometimes ASEAN is criticized for 1% of disagreement, but nobody recognizes 99% in agreement. For example, climate change or sea and maritime cooperation in general, but anything that ASEAN is in disagreement is a critically important question, and we will be reviewing back and forth on that question, including on the question of South China Sea. If, let's see, imagine there's no ASEAN, there will be no talks about South China Sea. There will be no linking point for coordination and dialogue between ASEAN and China, between ASEAN and the other dialogue partner on this one. We are still far away to achieving a satisfactory mechanism of managing the South China Sea, but we are on the way to do that, and I think it's better than nothing. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Okay, shall we go for another round? All right, there are a lot of hands, so I'm going to go more to my friend Simon, and then to the young leaders. DAV, you have to wait, sorry. So Simon first, and then the young leaders. And then to Jane, because you are new in the conference room, and then Lei Honghyun, and then to Xiumun. Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Simon Song from Taiwan. I have one question and one comment, very short. One question is about the South China COC negotiation. As we know, the South China Sea, by definition, is not an enclosed sea in international law. So, do you think, in my opinion, the fate of the COC negotiation and among other issues should not be decided solely by ASEAN and China, especially given the symmetric power between ASEAN and China? So I think its importance of the South China Sea extends way beyond to this region, impact Canada, impact EU and Germany, and particularly Japan. So how should we, this so-called extra regional country, have more say in the future of this negotiation? That's my question. My comment is just want to respond to our scholar from Beijing yesterday. He made a comment about the South China Sea claim. PRC inherited those claims from ROC, the Republic of China. I want to thank him for recognizing my country, but at the same time, I need to politely point out the difference. Taiwan's approach to the South China Sea issue is very different from China. In short, Taiwan is peace-loving. Taiwan fully respects international law. Taiwan insists on the peaceful resolution of disputes, and especially we don't use water cannon, and we don't ram into other vessels, and we don't employ the military militia. But we do ask to have a say on the table to decide the future of the South China Sea issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, young leaders. Next, maybe the lady next to you.
My name is Han and I'm from Fulbright University. First, I would like to thank the ambassadors for their valuable insight. I think my question would be directed towards His Excellency Julian and Her Excellency Helga. So there is a very strong emphasis on Europe's interest and commitment to hold economic security in the South China Sea in accordance with the principles of international law. However, many ASEAN member states are also deeply engaged with China, who is a vital economic and trade partner for Southeast Asia. My question is, how might Europe's pursuit of economic security in the South China Sea come into tension with ASEAN's regional political economy, particularly given the bloc's deep economic interdependence with China? Thank you.
Okay, one more question from the young leader, maybe on the row behind. Okay, the gentleman, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you for the insight. So before I start, I would like to introduce myself as my name is Wei Hutan. That's my full name. I am from Guidong University and I'm also the participant in the Young Leaders programs. So for my question is that we're having an insight about peace through shared responsibilities, but the point is the whole world, let alone the ASEAN region, wish to unite together to get into world peace. But the problem is there are many international rules in the whole world, but many people, they consider it as something it is like a trade-off, because for the followers, they likely to get into disadvantages, but for the one who violate them, they think it's a trade-off. It's like they buy something and then like they receive something that makes their items less valuable, so they call it as a trade-off. However,
can you go to the question, please?
Yes.
Don't have much time.
Yes. So I would like to ask, like, will there be stricter rules that like can make us go into the world peace more than ever? And also, what really is the climate change? As I think the only things that is changing frequently is the weather, because climate is always stable for billions of years. And that is my opinions, and that's my questions. Thank you very much. And I would like Mr. Wen to answer for my questions. Thank you.
All right, Jane, please.
Thank you very much. Jane Chan from the Rajaratnam School, Singapore. Ambassador Wim spoke about the need to engage for ASEAN to engage China more. So if I may direct a question to the other panelists, it was clear in your remarks that what you and your country stood in opposition to, but perhaps you can comment on any positive trajectory in engaging with China. So we heard about the CPTPP, but any other examples, please? Thank you.
Wonderful. Lei Hongyan, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sun. Good morning, ambassadors. Thank you very much for sharing your insights with us. I'm Lei Hongyan from the ASEAN Institute in Singapore. I have two questions. The first question goes to Ambassador Jim Nichol. So just 2 days ago, Canada and the Philippines signed an important agreement, the Status of Visiting Forces Agreement. I believe it is the first agreement, such agreement that Canada has signed with a regional country. My question is there any plan for Canada to sign similar agreements with any other countries in the region? And in that connection, I would like to ask a related question, if possible. So to my understanding, it is an indication of the fact that recent tensions between Canada and the US that do not seem to generate any problems for military cooperation between the two countries. I would like to seek your comments whether that is the case or whether there are indeed challenges for US and Canada military cooperation due to the recent tensions between the two countries. My second question goes to Ambassador Ito Naoki. So thank you very much for sharing your insights on the new the policies of Prime Minister Takaichi on regional issue, but I would like to elaborate a bit further on the South China Sea issue. Specifically, Prime Minister Takaichi has pledged to increase Japan's military spending to around 2% of Japan's GDP. So in that context, can we expect Japan to continue or to increase maritime capacity building assistance for regional countries, including Vietnam? And I would like to seek your insights or comments on the prospects of Japan exporting arms and military equipment to the region. Are there any opportunities and challenges for that prospect going forward? Thank you.
Thank you. We have Simon, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Excellencies. I seek the indulgence to ask a rather naughty question, if I may. For the past 1.5 days, we have been hearing a lot of discussion on one particular black sheep in the South China Sea, and understandably so, it's about China. If I may bring our discussion to a larger context to perhaps bring the other black sheep into the discussion. I'm talking specifically in terms of the United States, who under the Trump administration has done a lot to undermine international order, either in the World Trade Organization, UN agencies and so on, and definitely free trade. So in that context, I would like to seek to position my question, that a question that's often asked to us about ASEAN, on the question of choosing sides, whether we choose US or China. So I wanted to turn that question to our non-ASEAN ambassador on the panel. Do you face similar pressure of having to choose sides in your respective countries? And if you do have to choose a side, which side would you choose between the black sheep that is China and then the other black sheep that is the United States? Thank you, Excellencies.
Thank you very much. I believe that there are still a lot more questions in the room, but I'm afraid I have to cut it off here because some ambassadors have to rush to the airport right after this. So can I turn to the ambassadors and please choose the question that you would like to respond to in a very brief manner. Ambassador Margaret Berg, please.
Hello. I'd like to respond to the sheep question. Black sheep. The black sheep question. The problem for middle and even smaller powers is that the black sheep are just there. The superpowers, they are a reality, and if they were not superpowers, if we were dependent on them in one way or the other. So for us Europeans, we're dependent on US engagement in Europe. This is especially true for nuclear deterrence. So I just can't envision European security completely without the US. And every time some troop movement emerges, some ideas about troop movement out of Europe emerges in the media, we are kind of, okay, what is this? Is this the great withdrawal? So this is a reality we have to deal with. And the other reality is that we in Europe are very dependent on China as manufacturers, manufacturing in China under increasingly difficult conditions, and as traders who are dependent on the Chinese market. But we need China also for, as I mentioned, the delivery or just having a market of rare earths where we can purchase them. If China, so to speak, closes the pipeline, we are really in dire straits. So I'm a diplomatic practitioner and not someone working at a think tank. But that's what you just asked us is the $1 million question. So reducing our dependencies is, I think, very important, and there's a lot of hard thinking. I mean, we were dependent on Russia for gas deliveries, and quite amazing, especially Europe, especially Germany, and quite amazingly, we manage that? I mean, we had politicians speaking out about a very cold winter because there were no gas deliveries, and we didn't have any reserves because we had become overly dependent. We had trust for Russia. We had so much trust. We really trusted in this interdependence, and that was a huge mistake, and we've corrected that. I think that's something that is going to keep us all busy in the next couple of years. How to put our eggs in many more baskets, reduce dependencies, and not to be as dependent as we are now from two very big powers.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Maybe a 1-minute response to a very small question.
Yes, I will be very short. I fully agree with the comments that the South China Sea should not be only dealt with by ASEAN and China. Indeed, if there is one message you heard from this panel is how strongly we are all interested from other regions in the world in the South China Sea. We are seeking a deeper integration and participation in regional fora, ARF, ADMM+, so ASEAN has the possibility to us and increase cooperation. Third, countries seeing not respecting international rules as a trade-off or an interest for themselves, well, it is up to us to make it more interesting for everybody to follow the rules rather than to violate them. We have that we have applied against Russia, for instance, but including in the trade rules, it is up to us, Vietnam, ASEAN countries, the EU, to make sure that we treat our FTA trading partners better than we treat the trade bullies that do not respect. And final comments to build on the German ambassador just said. We have learned the hard way what over-dependence means on Russian gas, on US security, on market. So if there is one to your question, how do we cooperate the context of many countries being deeply integrated with China here? Well, the message is make sure that you don't make the same mistakes as we made earlier on, and that you fight for your strategic autonomy, your economic independence. We have learned lessons, we are ready to share them with you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador of Canada.
Yeah. Good, thanks very much. I think I've got 3 questions to answer here. In terms of positive trajectory in Canada's relations with the People's Republic of China, yes, we have some. It's the short answer. Fairly recent too, I'll go in reverse order. So just recently, of course, Prime Minister Carney, our new Prime Minister, met with President Xi Jinping in South Korea on the margins of the APEC meeting. So that was the first meeting of leaders between those two countries in 8 years. So that's a step forward. If I back up from that, we could go to the beginning of the new Canadian government under Prime Minister Carney, starting in July, where we began with China to have political security dialogues at senior levels of our foreign ministry. We've had our foreign minister travel to Beijing to have meetings with Wang Yi. We've had our agricultural minister, because our largest export product to the People's Republic of China is agriculture and agri-food products, so our agricultural minister was there. Our environment minister was also just recently, in the last couple of months, this was September, August perhaps, was there for dialogues on a plurilateral arrangement that we have with China that Canada began back in 1993, where Canada, through our international development assistance, invested heavily in raising China's capabilities to address environmental issues. That's been going since 1993, and our environment minister there co-chaired that plurilateral meeting with a number of other states with the Chinese environmental minister. I'm expecting we'll have resumption of some of the bilateral consultative mechanisms that we have with China. I believe on the books we have about 23 of those, from finance, economics, environment, agriculture, pick a topic. There's a bilateral consultative mechanism that we have with China. All of those have been dormant for since December 2018, but they will be resurrected now. So I would call all of that positive trajectory in the relationship with the People's Republic of China. I might just say though, just on the point of dependence, sort of trade dependency or vulnerabilities, Canada is, I guess, compared to our ASEAN friends, maybe in a little bit better position. Actually, China only accounts for about 4% of Canada's exports globally. 4%. So it's important. But that represents about 25 days of Canadian exports to the United States. So that's just to put that in context, so when we think about vulnerability, dependence, that sort of thing. There was another question about whether there's a reference to the Station of Forces agreement between Canada and the Philippines, and whether Canada might be looked to do similar things with other partners in the region. I would say that we'd absolutely be open to that. Of course, there's lots of negotiations that need to take place. And levels of trust, etc., would have to be in place. We do, of course, have other arrangements short of a stationing of forces agreement. I mentioned earlier in the piece that, for example, with Vietnam, we have 2 defense and security arrangements, which focus on capabilities and collaboration on training and other sorts of aspects, search and rescue, humanitarian assistance, other factors like that in the military range. But we also have high-level defense and security dialogues with ASEAN partners. So that would be something of that sort. I think part of the question as well was whether, if I understood this correctly, there was a question about the status of Canada-U.S. defense cooperation. If that's what the question was. Well, I think as everyone perhaps may know in the room, Canada has a long-standing defense and security relationship with the United States. We have a shared command of continental security, so the North America Air Defense is, the command of that is shared between Canada and the United States. We have really deep interoperability with U.S. forces. We exercise together, we train together. We're of course both members of NATO. And we have a very close military-industrial connection as well. The Canadian defense industry is completely integrated with the U.S. defense industry. Just an interesting little anecdote on this is about 50% of the aluminum that goes into U.S. defense products comes from Canada. Now, curiously enough, under Section 201, President Trump has put a 50% tariff on that aluminum that we provide to the U.S. military industry. So I'm not quite sure what the rationale was behind that, but it seems like a self-inflicted wound. Choosing between black sheep and black sheep, I guess it was. Those were the 2 options. I guess the Canadian approach to this then is, we can get along with the black sheep as well. We'll point out their defaults, absolutely, but our approach will be to the important things that our new government is doing is, 1, strengthening our domestic economy so that we are better placed to play internationally, and 2, to seek out more reliable trade and security partners in ASEAN, in the Indo-Pacific, and in Europe. So I think those are the 2 approaches that we'll take to dealing with the black sheep.
Thank you very much. Ambassador, I know you have to rush to the airport. If there's any last thing that you'd like to...
Since there was a question about Takaichi's policy on defense spending, because which is accelerating the pace of increase of defense spending, so that will reach soon to the 2% GDP level. Whether this could be the sign that Japan's engagement in the defense sphere with countries in the region is also going to be enhanced, that's not yet certain. But hopefully even the budget allocated to the framework of cooperation like OSA, this official security assistance, will be increased. Although this is the budget to be allocated to foreign ministry, not the defense ministry, but also this line of budget will be positively impacted by the policy line of Takaichi. Takaichi clearly instructed to consider whether Japan should and could lift restrictions on the export of defense-related equipment. So far we have a restriction that only non-lethal defense equipment can be exported overseas. But Defense Minister Koizumi initiated the consultations whether to lift this restriction in the future. This may take a little while, so we may not be able to see the early result, but clearly that's a sort of direction this new administration is looking at. So this could change the future cooperation, collaboration between Japan and the countries in the region. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, ambassadors, for the excellent exchange for the first time at the Ambassadors Lounge. I believe that we benefited a lot, and the audience also benefited a lot, and we come out reassured that the world continues to be very important players out there, and there's still plenty of opportunities to unify the world and to strengthen ourselves vis-a-vis the uncertainties that we are both and we are all facing. So thank you very much, and thank you for the audience, and I'm sorry, ambassadors, for dragging it over time. That shows how interested the audience are on you and your respective countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wee Hong-seung and our this week ambassadors for this rich and candid discussion. Please enjoy your short coffee break before session 4 begins at 11 a.m. Online participants, thank you for your support so far, and we will be